and welcome to Talk Art. I'm Sally Rain, and I'll be your host as we delve into the world of the artist and the art that's all around us. Talk Art is sponsored by the Silicon Valley Open Studios. During the first 3 weekends in May, hundreds of local artists open our studios to the public. For more information, you can go to the website svos.org. Our guest, Margaret Washington, is an award-winning watercolor artist who paints urban landscapes and still lifes and portraits using beautiful detail and exquisite lighting in her paintings. She also writes and illustrates children's picture books. So welcome, Margaret.
Thank you, Sally.
So tell us a little bit about your background. You paint with such detail. Tell us, how did you start with art?
Well, I've always painted my whole life. I don't really remember not painting.
Oh.
My father was an artist. My uncles were artists. They were sign painters.
Oh.
And I always painted and had paint around and painted little paintings on cardboard. And so I don't really remember not doing it.
So did you get an education in art then?
Yes, I have a BA in graphic design from San Jose State. And I was a graphic designer for a number of years. And then but I've always painted in watercolor.
Interesting. So not the sign painting, if you're...
Well, the last job I had as a graphic designer was a sign designer for a sign painting company. So I did get into the little bit of that, yeah.
But watercolor is your passion.
Yes,
and it's
definitely.
Such an intricate, difficult medium to work with, so your details are so beautiful. We'll be seeing some of that. So you also teach. So tell us a little bit about that.
For the last 21 years, I've taught at Old Orchard School in Campbell. It's a private school. So they have two teachers that teach art.
Oh, wow.
Lucky kids get art every day. And I also teach a watercolor class to adults on Saturdays.
Oh, excellent. At the same place?
Yes.
So in Campbell,
yeah,
that's
for the
where
last
you're
10
based.
years, I've done that too.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about the award winning.
Well, I've won awards since high school in watercolors. There have been some national awards and local awards, University Art Open, the California Watercolor Society. I won second place in the signature member show.
Oh.
Yeah, the California Watercolor Society is a well-known society, and they have an international show once a year. And if you get into that show 3 times, which is really hard, it took me 10 years.
Wow, yeah.
And the competition's from all over the world.
Exactly.
And if you get in 3 times, then you can petition to be a signature member. And that's what the CWA at the end of my name stands for.
Oh.
It's a professional designation.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at some of the paintings that you've created and how you actually block them out and create them. So,
Clotted cream I did just this year. It was from a trip I took to Ireland, and that was just the table after we had lunch.
that's beautiful. I really like the way the light comes from behind in that one.
And it was a challenge because it's really all white.
Yeah, but
White
it's not
tablecloth, everything, but it's just a little bit of color, but that's the challenge of it.
That is really beautiful.
And this one I did about 20 years ago when I was doing just primarily still lifes, and that was in my dining room.
Wow, look at that with the glass and the reflections.
That was when I started taking photographs of my still life setups, because by the time I finished, it would take me a month or 2 months to do it.
Oh, wow.
The fruit would be, fruit flies, and
flowers.
and the flowers would be dead, and so I started doing it from photographs.
That one's just got such beautiful light.
This is my living room at home, and it was very intricate. Took a long time, probably took me a week just to draw it.
Wow. So this is how you start.
Yeah, when something is really intricate, I tend to just do it completely in one section at a time. It just keeps me going. I get the idea that this is going to work out, and I
Right.
get the values set, and so then I go from section to section until it's all done.
Oh, look at that. So those are pretty much complete. You wouldn't go
Yeah.
back and
Well, sometimes I
maybe
do
a
go in
little?
because when I put in the black screen and then the fabric behind it
Right.
appeared too light, so I had to go in again with more washes.
And how do you keep the chair white like that?
I just painted around it.
Really? Wow.
It's just the white paper.
Oh, it's
There
not
you
white
go.
anymore. Look
Yep.
at that. So,
But I loved how the light was coming in that window.
yeah, and the wood and you do such a beautiful job with reflections. That's amazing. So, we have a video that you will you show us how you actually work with the photos and how you choose your image that you're going to do. So let's take a look at that now.
Okay.
Looking through the camera roll, I'll find a picture that I think has potential. I like this photograph. I think it has a good lighting area here, but I want to crop it so it's even better composition. I hit Edit, then the cropping mechanism. Now see, I tried to correct the horizontal, but I want to make sure that that table in the foreground is level. So I'm going to correct it again. Then I'm going to crop it by bringing this side in, bringing this up, a little bit over, and the top down. I hit done. And now it's a much better composition. The people that are in the light, in the sun, are more in focus, and that is the focal point for you, the painting.
And now we have a demonstration of your work. So show us what you do with the photos.
Well, this is a picture I've chosen. My friend Sabina took this picture in the Bay in San Francisco. And what I do is I want to blow up this image so it fits the paper. So I know this is 8 inches and I want it to be 20 inches. So I use my reduction wheel, or some people call it proportional scale. And I find the 8-inch on here, and I line it up with the 20 inches, and it tells me I need to blow it up 250%.
Oh.
So I cut this picture in force and then do 4 enlargements. And then when I go to draw it, I've also drawn a line in the picture that's in force. And then I have this drawing to do one-on-one proportions. So it's much easier to draw it that way.
Definitely.
So I can measure down from the top how many inches and how big the building is. Just, it's really helpful to draw it that way.
Oh, yes, I can see that.
So this painting, I've done some work with Frisket.
What is Frisket?
It's masking fluid. It's just another name for masking fluid. Frisket is. And it's really important to note that you need to put your brush in a soap solution and then into the Frisket. Otherwise, it's going to wreck your brushes.
Oh, no.
It's very hard on the brushes. It's also hard on the paper. So I only use it sparingly. And this picture, I used it on the waves coming up the white. So it's still on there. You can see it as it looks peachy colored. And then I have it on the railing along the building and up here, because then when I paint in the side of the building, I'll do it now. You can see that it saves the white railing for me. And so I'm going to do that really quickly here. And what I do often with the first go-round for the first glaze, I will first paint with just water. Of course, this water is a little dirty, but that's okay.
Why do you do that?
Then when I go in with the wash, it's going to flow much easier, and you won't get the brush marks.
Oh.
So this doesn't look too exciting here, but it's.
What type of brush are you using?
This is a silver black velvet. It's squirrel and synthetic mixture. And they're pretty cheap, but they're really good. They hold a good point. So now I'm going to put the blue in. You have to remember, if you do it this way with the water down first, it's going to dilute your color even more. So you have to kind of compensate for that. But here, see how it just flows. And it will only go where the water is. It won't drip down past where I've put the water. It's almost magical how that happens.
Right, yeah. Like holds the edge.
Of course, there'll be more layers of shadows.
So you're using blue as your
Shadow
shadow
color,
for
yeah.
this.
And then if you have that bead of paint, you just take a drier brush, a thirsty brush, and it'll pick up that.
Oh, look at that.
And I'll do the same thing for the roof.
So how do you choose your colors for this when you do the shadow that's blue?
Well, it's years and years of mixing color, and I just know what combinations. You often use in art the complementary colors
Right.
to dull things down a little bit, make them not so bright. So I may put a little orange in the blue to make it more of a gray.
So in watercolor, orange and blue make gray.
Yeah, almost everything makes gray in watercolor if you mix it together. The complement, like if you do equal parts red and green, which are the complements,
Right.
it turns black. You can get a complete black by using the complements, especially red and green.
Interesting.
Now I'm going to do a little bit of work on the side of the cliff here. There are several layers I've already put in, and I'm going to put a few more, but I'm going to go with water first, so the little crevices and interest will all flow down.
So that's a pretty dark background. What are you planning on painting on top? Even darker?
Oh yeah, got to go. Keep going darker and darker. It's scary when you're first learning how to paint to go dark, but you just have to kind of do it. So I'm going to get some really dark here. This is Payne's Gray with a little orange in it. And I'm going to just put it where I put the water. And it just flows, but the edges aren't as sharp, because you wouldn't really want too sharp of edges in the area that I'm painting.
Will you be adding more detail on top of that, or is that?
Yeah, probably.
So for you, watercolor is pure, so anything that's white is the paper?
Yes.
So you don't paint another white layer on top?
You can't, there's no white paint. Well, technically there is, you can buy it,
Right.
but I don't use it. Most of watercolorists don't use it. I'm going on the edge to soften the edge. I'm going to put a little blue in the water too, because there's a shadow cast on the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to start over here and make that shadow. And later when I take the frisket off the waves here, they will be too white, so I'll have to go over that and go with a little blue paint
Oh, interesting.
to soften it.
But very, very light.
But it's all layering.
And to make it lighter in watercolor, what do you do?
You can scrub it if you make a mistake and you want to soften an edge or make it lighter. There's very brushes like this that are very stiff, and you can scrub it to take it off. But it's, you know, it's going to rough up the paper, so you can't do a lot of detail over it. So now this is almost dry, so I can go in there with a little more blue to make it more interesting, because there's stains and shadows and things on the side. That's what I loved about this photograph, was all the interest in the white.
It's always interesting to me that white is very rarely actually white.
No, that would be really boring.
So how many layers do you think will be in that particular area by the end when you're...
Which area?
The wall that you're working on?
Oh, probably 5 or 6 layers. There's some red bricks that show through here, and then I have to go in when this is completely dry and put in the windows. And there's little openings up here. There's a shadow underneath the roof line. Then when I take off this frisket, I will have the railing show, but the railing isn't just white, it's got shape. So there's a shadow on one part of it. It's very minute, but it will make a difference. So you can use the side of your brush to make interesting kind of marks.
Those are really interesting details. Well, you brought some other images of landscapes, and then we can take a look at some of your portraits. So let's take a look at those now. This one is San Francisco Bay. Wow, I can really see the beautiful blues and the shadows that you did on that. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I love that image. I think the most exciting part of it is the sail with the shadows on the sail and the flag that it just kind of really hits the sun. So the flag is kind of the brightest thing in the photograph, really, or the image. That was one of the first pictures I did with a ocean scene where it had waves and the white caps. And so that was kind of a challenge. I did use frisket for that.
For the waves?
To save the white of the tops of the waves. Yeah. I used a really bristly brush to put that on. This is Copenhagen sunset with the sun going down. It's so pretty with the colors.
I really like the way that where it's really bright, all the detail is gone. You know it's there, you know there are masks there, but...
The masks disappear where the sun is. Yeah, I just follow what the photograph has. And it's just all the detail that I love. But the darks were a challenge. That's really a dark painting.
Oh, yeah.
This is American Window, which is a reference to Chagall. He did these famous stained glass windows in a church or in Chicago, and
yeah.
But that was the first person I did, first
Really?
face.
Wow.
Face, yes. So I never thought I could do faces or people. So
Well, this one is
yes,
beautiful.
yeah, that's the sun coming through the
Yeah, it's the
the
trees.
light and the
yeah.
hammock and having different shapes on their arms and everything.
What I noticed about that is the little girl's hand
Hmm.
sort of disappears in the light at the top.
Yeah,
and
it
that's
just
glowing.
bleaches it out.
Very interesting.
And painting all the dark between all the netting. I didn't
Wow.
use Fresket for that.
Ooh.
I just painted all the
Yeah.
little dark areas. It's kind of tedious, but you know, I think it was
Beautiful.
the best way to do it.
Yeah, the irregularity of it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, this one's beautiful.
This was a commission.
Oh, very
Those
nice.
are two girls that I actually taught at Old Orchard, and they're in high school and college now. But that was a challenge because they're smiling, and it's just one of the hardest things to do is paint people that are smiling. It kind of,
Really?
yeah, it's easy to make them look like they're chicklets or
Oh, yeah,
you know,
chipmunks.
yeah, or something. It's
Yeah.
just, you know, it's a hard thing to do, but it turned out pretty good.
Yeah, no, those are, you can definitely tell they're sisters.
Hmm. This is a boy in leaves,
Oh, look at the light
and
on
yeah,
his
I love
hair.
the how the light captures in his hair. I did use Frisket for those little wisps of hair, but I also wanted the focus to be on his face and his hair, and then all the leaves are, if you look closely, they're all done very loosely,
Right.
and it's just shapes and colors.
And the background,
Mhm.
wow, it's so dark. It's unusual for watercolor to have that.
Yeah, it's lots of layers of paint.
Yeah. So did you paint then any more color on those hairs, or are those white? Did you leave them?
Very few of them are white.
Oh,
Some of them have a little bit of color, and maybe and they also have different variations of color in one strand. This is my husband.
And he's reading.
Yes, he's reading.
a
We were actually
beautiful
waiting for a
painting.
room at the Palace Hotel in San Francisco, and I just liked the shape of the chair. It kind of mimicked the shape of his head and his nose, and it just was, all these shapes were repeating themselves.
Right, and the
So,
beautiful browns. Really
yeah,
nice.
and the light hitting his forehead.
Those are great. So let's take a look at your books. So you have this beautiful children's book. Tell us about, what's the story about?
This is about Dutchie, who we rescued, and we thought she needed to go to the dog wash, which was an idea my husband gave me about a book that is a dog wash, but it's like a car wash. So it's a conveyor belt, and and everything comes down, and they get sprayed and all that stuff. So it's kind of a funny idea, and so I started working on the book. The whole book is a poem, and then I have 15 paintings in it of different dogs that Duchess meet, and they tell her, "You've got to go to the dog wash. It's great," and you know.
Go to the dog wash.
Yeah, so that's a portrait of
there's
Dutchie.
Beautiful,
Duchess, yeah.
beautiful detail in this. And so here's some of the paintings that are part of it, right?
That's Arthur, my daughter's dog, and he's portraying the area where they get sprayed with soap, so you have to have goggles, you know.
He's got goggles.
Yeah.
And so this is not a very loose children's book. Sometimes there's not as many details in children's
well,
books.
I only know how to do it one way.
So here's
So this
another
is
one.
Arthur getting scrubbed. That was fun.
So did you take a picture of him looking that direction?
I
How
had a
did you-
picture of him looking back, and so I just Googled car washes to look what
Right.
those would look like, and I just had to use my imagination, which is something I don't do a lot of. So it's harder to actually paint from your imagination than looking at
yeah.
a photograph.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, and here's one more.
Yeah,
This one's
that's
got a
my
lot of
friend's
details.
dog, Chewy, and that's a different view of the dog wash.
So in the dogs does he get clean in the end?
Yes, at the end he gets up there and gets clean, and yep.
And then this one
This is from my new book,
the latest.
and it's called Hogwash.
Hogwash.
Yes, and it's about my two new dogs that I have who are very judgmental, especially Leo. And he just thinks this new dog that's walking down the street is the ugliest dog he's ever seen. And then it turns out it's a pig. And so then they still think that he should go to the dog wash because he must be dirty if he's a pig, you know. So anyway, that's the
premise.
the
so
message
this is,
in the book.
So
yes.
this book is coming soon.
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Well, these are beautiful paintings for the books and really interesting. So I'll definitely take a look at the poetry.
Yeah.
So you wrote the poem as well?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, very nice. Cool. So where can people see your art? Do you have art shows, website? Tell us a little bit about where we can see more.
Yeah, I do have a website, and I do the Silicon Valley Open Studios, of course. I've done it for quite a number of years. And I also do Nagley Park Open Studio.
Where is that?
That's in part of San Jose, and that's in June every year. And then I'm in juried shows like California Watercolor Society and the National Watercolor Society, and there's different groups that have shows, juried shows, and so I show in that way too. But I also have lots of commissions. So I have like 5 commissions I still have to do.
Oh, that's great.
So got them lined up. Yes.
Excellent.
So I'm busy. Yeah.
So when you work with a commission, does the person choose the photo and work with you that way?
Sometimes, but I have control over what photograph. So it's, you know, they submit lots of different ones, and they trust me as the artist that I will pick one that works, for them.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So people can go to your website and see your work and see where you're going to be. Because you never know what juried shows you're going to get in.
No, that's true.
Well, best of luck to you. Well,
thank you.
Thank you so much for being on Talk Art. This has been a fabulous demonstration, and your work is beautiful.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.